Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Everyday Mystic, where we demystify the mystical and transform your life into one of greater meaning, higher purpose, and true joy. Uh, I haven't podcasted in a while, and it's been an interesting period for me because everything with this podcast has been all about entering a flow, really actually producing it from this mystical path, which part of mystical is mystery, that there is not a plan necessarily uh, that you know of until it unfolds before you. And the podcast has been created in that energy. It's been living and been and produced in that energy, and it continues to move along in that energy. And so I guess I wasn't surprised when I hit this place where it just wasn't flowing in the same way. Wondering, what is it? What is being asked of me now in this time? Is it a different aspect of the podcast that wants to be created? Is there something different that wants to be discussed? Are there different types of guests that want to be invited? All of this. And it came at a time that's really, I guess, perfect for me or made sense. And that's what I mean about perfect, that it just made sense in looking back at it. I left the country with my family for 2 months and wasn't going to have any of my podcasting stuff with me. And I banked a bunch of episodes and I released those over the summer. And during that period, did not, was involved, I guess, in so many other activities and just living life and being on my path that I didn't have the same kind of drive to talk about the path. And now I'm back with having recorded with a couple of guests, going to release those episodes, but still in this space of figuring out, what am I doing with this podcast? Where is it going? And I throw those questions out with literally no expectation of answer. I mean, I know the answers are going to come, so I expect that, but I don't have any expectation of what that answer would be or what I want it to be. I don't want this to be anything than it is. And I'm sharing this with you all because that's what this podcast is really all about. It's about living a life without specific expectation. And what I mean by that is that we live in a world that has specific rules and specific types of it's a construct. It's a construct that has its own rules. We could call those rules of physics or whatever terminology we've given it. But there are certain rules that operate the human experience and our life here on planet Earth. And when we move through life in this way of being unconscious to that, we just allow the program to run us. We're just basically the meat puppet. We just, are being operated. But it's when we become conscious to that which is happening to us, we go, I'm actually living in this body, having this experience. So, what is that entity that's having this experience? Let me explore that. And so, we start to explore our spiritual side, our spiritual nature, and allow that to travel to a place of realization where we are a soul that's part of this greater oneness and consciousness that was created by something. What the heck was that? Then we start to explore concepts of God and the creator. And some people think maybe it's a simulation. Some people think, maybe we're in a petri dish and we're just an experiment of some other conscious entity. Who knows? But we get to start to explore those greater mysteries and the knowing of and having answers to those mysteries can sometimes, even within absolutely within the spiritual community, certainly as well as outside of that community, can get very specific. Like, oh, this is exactly what's going on. This is who we pray to. This is what this is. This is where we're going. This is what this is all about, and with definitive answers and those types of specifics. And one could live their life that way too, with that type of specificity. Or I want this type of job and live this kind of life with this sort of material possessions. I want to have achieved this amount of thing by the age of X. And even when we start to get into the realm of manifestation, that specificity can still remain among people who are living more energetically, where they could say, I want to manifest 7 figures in my business by this date, et cetera, et cetera. And those specifics and specificity really keep us bound within this construct that is, and that does give us the illusion that there is a bounded kind of time, and gives us this illusion that this construct is all there is. So if we want to manifest, or we want to live energetically, and we want to live in a more multidimensional way, we have to drop that specificity. The specificity is a trick of this construct. So moving out of specificity and into more generality, it looks like how you want to feel, what you want to give, what you want to surround yourself in energetically. So really, it's starting to talk about life from that energetic perspective. Now, the perspective of energy, I know, is also very nuanced, but I consider everything to be energy, and we just are, the energy is being concentrated in different ways. So our body is energy, but it's taking on a dense form. Our thoughts and our feelings are less dense, but certainly we could all agree as real as our body. When we start to look at all of life as energy, just in different forms, we can start to work with it differently. And this brings us to things like a podcast or a business or a relationship. Those things all hold and carry their own energy. I actually look at each of these, we'll just call them concepts or things, for lack of a better term, these things as all being their own entity with and carrying their own energetic signature, vibrating at a specific frequency, having intention and wanting and desiring to exist, just like we do. We want and desire to exist, and therefore exist. And that's true of, let's say, a business idea you have. This business idea comes in from nowhere, or you've had this business idea for your entire life. And it might be not a business idea, but even a vocation. You've always been an artist and you've had this desire your entire life, or you've always taken things apart and tried to figure out what they were and then put them back together again. Whatever it is that drives us, it's desire behind that drive, the desire to understand life, or to interact with life, or interact with that thing in front of you, the canvas or the engine, whatever it might be. So these ideas and this stuff exists outside of us, and we decide and we get called and we have desire toward certain elements of things that are going on in this construct. But those things exist outside of us. They have their own energetic signature. They exist before us. We think, oh, we got this amazing idea. Oh my gosh, I'm going to create this brilliant concept or this brilliant screenplay or whatever it might be. And maybe it's a book idea and you write the book, and then a month before you publish, another book is published. with the same topic. This happens all the time throughout history to everyone. It's part of what people consider this collective consciousness, part of what I consider to be that these things they all exist already. And it's whether we desire it and tap into it and then call it forth in our own life and do something and interact with that in some way. So those things existing in their own way, going back to the podcast, is how this podcast came into being. I wanted and desired to do a podcast, but it existed somewhere and then dropped into my consciousness in this form, in this way. And I knew that it had its own intention of what it wanted to be and become. For any of you where this sounds maybe too woo-woo or esoteric, think about something in your life that just easily happened for you. You desired it, and it was like all the steps and things just fell into place so easily and without any effort, without any force. It just all happened, and you're like, wow, and maybe you even ventured to say, wow, it was meant to be. Because look how it all unfolded. And that's true of the things that we are matched with in frequency. We come into harmony with that thing, whether it's an idea, whether it's a person, whether it's a place, whether it's a material, hard constructed item. We come into harmony with it. And if it is what is meant for our life, and the use of our energy at the time. And if that thing is also responding to the energy we're giving it, it just happens. It flows, it unfolds, it's easy. To me, the mystery lies in, well, what is it? What's going to happen? We don't know. But there is no mystery to me in what's happening. That to me is very clear that is what's happening in this realm. And we get to play with that, and we get to create with that. We get to build our life, our dream life, the life of that is of our highest and best, whatever we desire. We get to build that because we are desiring and then matching with those that desire energy. Whether that's a idea, a thing, a person, again, even a piece of mechanical instrument, right? There's certain things that feel right when you hold them or use them. And, as humans, we're collectors of things, right? Whether it's shells and rocks. And in the very beginnings, I still collect shells and rocks, but it also might be collecting art, collecting objects, whether that's a functional object like a piece of furniture or an object that we just, place on a pedestal and look at. We're collectors, but why? I believe we collect those things because those also vibrate in an energy that matches ours and our desire in some way. So if our desire is to feel a certain way, have certain thoughts, to be motivated in a certain way. Or on the flip side, if our desire is to punish ourselves, to feel shame, to be in a state of guilt, to feel pain because we think we deserve it, then we'll surround ourselves, because that's what we desire. We will call in that which matches our desire and resonate and harmonize with that thing. It will feel like disharmony because there's going to be your higher self part of you that goes, wait, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want pain, shame, guilt, fear. And there will always be that higher self that is watching out for you, that which is this, to call it a lower self, I know sounds like, but I already used the term higher self. So I'm just going to call our ego the lower self. But that lower self, which is not any less our self, right? In this construct, that is as much our self as the higher self is, as is aspects of self that we hold, the body, the mind, the feelings, and our gut and our intuition. All of these selves, and even the parts of our ego can all be broken up into different selves. All of those selves carry equal weight in our life. They're all as important. Let's put it that way. They are all equally important. The higher self gets to hold this space, this place, however, that has perspective, that is connected to a greater consciousness and connected into the oneness of all that is. It's that collective consciousness. It's God consciousness. It's being connected to something more than just all those selves of your human being. So when we connect into the higher self, then we just gain more perspective, gain more resources from other places that don't just come directly from us and our experiences. We get to connect into and vibrate with as we desire. We get to connect into things that we never thought we could think, or that we never thought we could feel, or that we never imagined that we would have. We get to tap into all of that when we tap into our higher self. So the mystical path is connecting into and living from that place of our higher self consciousness, running the show, not being the only thing that exists. Because if that were the only thing that exists, we would just live there and we would leave our body and we would, essentially die here on earth and go back to whatever plane realm holds those souls until they go on to the next thing, if you believe that, right? I believe it because I've been there. And that's another element of mysticism. Mysticism calls for real life experience, actually having direct experience of the mystery. That's what creates the awe that exists within the mystical realm or for people on a mystical path. We're in awe of the mystery as we explore it in a direct way. So the direct experience of the other realms can happen through so many different ways and means. And all of my guests up until now have shared different ways that they've experienced those other realms, whether it be through prayer, meditation, cold plunge sounds and harmonies, whether it's through psychedelics and ceremonies, whether it's been through deep study of ancient texts and doing chanting along with those things, or it's moving your body and twisting it up into different ways as you speak a mantra. Whatever and all of the things that have been shared by all my guests, and I'm sure of and from future guests, are all valid. They're all ways and means in order for the individual self to experience the universal self, to experience the oneness of all that is, to tap into and understand that we aren't just this body, that we aren't just this being in a body, even, that we are, or can at least experience the allness of all, the oneness of this energy that of all that is. And you may want to call that God. Certainly a lot of spiritual traditions would call that God, this over the creator, this overarching mystery that created all of this. I don't know if it's God. I don't know if, and we are in a simulation. I don't know any of those things definitively. All I can do is experience what I experience. I have experienced what feels like the universe exploding around me and the presence of what we might call a God speaking to me, hearing it in my entire being, but it's voiceless, knowing it in every cell of my body without being told it. It was like the downloads that a lot of people on my podcast have talked about. They were downloaded with information from somewhere. Is it coming from God? Is it coming from the, researcher that's, running this experiment of us in a petri dish? Is it coming from a program? Is it coming from AI? I don't know. But I know that I've experienced it. And I know that I've experienced myself in other realms and being given messages and being traveling through space and time and being in other and experiencing myself from different vantage points. So life as a mystic is experiencing all of that. It's not even necessarily coming to any conclusion. It's just experiencing life from this state of consciousness with a sense of curiosity to travel beyond this well-worn path of the human being that we were born into. We came with opening still to the mystery. And then life and society and we could talk about some of the dark forces that are here too that keep us small, keep us insulated, keep us in a state of fear and a state of, rather than desiring our own connection to God, we are now blocked from that. So whatever way you may have been blocked in your life from the truth of who you are, all it takes to remove those blocks is to know that you aren't that construct, that construct was created around you to keep you small, to keep you, right? Keep you in a state of perpetual fear so that you only can rely on those who can give you a sense of comfort and safety. And that's usually governmental entities, it's authoritarian systems that essentially become systems of control. So the life of the mystic lives outside of those systems. You live outside of the authoritarian telling you, this is what this is all about. This is everything. Okay, you just have to follow this thing, follow this path, this program, and then you will have a righteous life or live the best life or be a successful person, whatever the path that's been shown to us is guiding you down. If it's a path that keeps us removed from exploring that mystery on our own, then it's time to get skeptical. It's time to start questioning, is that in my best interest to be kept from my own curiosity, to be told that my desires, that my understanding of what may be going on here that differs from the understanding of the collective, that's somehow wrong. From a spiritual perspective, there are spiritual seekers, and then there are those who feel like they found the answer. And sometimes those answers are found in a system, in one book, in a specific guru or practice. The mystical path may lead you to something like that. But if you are still on the mystical path, it might lead you away from that too, to where you're exploring something else, something new, because this is opening you up even more and is connecting you even deeper and is showing you absolutes and truths that you had not seen before and are continuing to unfold the mystery. If the mystery is solved, then it's kind of like, okay, well, Now we're here, just back in our well-worn ruts, in our routine, in our bubble, in our shell, our protective enclosure. But I believe life is a constant seeking. And it doesn't mean that we're dissatisfied with what we've found. It just means that we are continuously curious of what else there is. What other truths can I discover? What other experiences of the divine can I have? And when I say experience of this divine, it doesn't just mean these mystical experiences where we're, the universe is exploding around you and God is speaking to you. I mean, also just life. The divine is in all things. It's us. It is everything around us. And if when we experience life that way and we continue to open ourselves up in that way to life, we get to experience more of everything that's here for us, but through the eyes of the divine, through that beautiful sense of awe and mystery of what else? What else is there? And there's so much else out there than what most of us were shown or told is what life is all about. In traveling, which like I said, I was just away for 2 months. And when I say away, that is away from this home base, but this home base is even away. We've been moving over the last 4 years to a new place about every year, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more in one place. And we've been very nomadic. That nomadicism, that nomadic life has not come from dissatisfaction per se. It's come more from a curiosity of, well, what else is there? If this is not it, if this is not, where we want to be anymore, then what else is there? Actually, there's a million other things. There's probably an infinite number of combinations of things that we could be experiencing beyond this. So why suffer through that? I'm not one that believes in suffering. Yes, I believe in the beauty and the gifts that come from suffering when suffering happens, but I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, we have to suffer. You must suffer. And that's what this life is. And that's what spirituality is to relieve yourself of suffering. No, I think that this life is a beautiful gift, and we can experience this life as a beautiful gift if we see it that way, if we desire for it to be that way, and we create it to be that way. Now, I know maybe some of you listening are saying, I don't have the economic means to live that way. I don't have the whatever, fill in the blank to do that. For most of us, and certainly anyone tuning into this podcast, that would be the case, I'm sure. You've got the means. The means are not necessarily financial. They are wits. They are desire. They are resources of being connected to a network in a free world. It's the freedom of movement that we have living here. Right? I was born in South Korea and left there before I remember. So I left when I was 3, and I don't remember anything about my life there. However, I have visited there, and I've gone to the DMZ, which is the border between South Korea and North Korea. And in thinking about how people live or are living there, where they have no freedom of movement, really, where their freedom is absolutely captured by this authoritarian dictator who has captured people. Now people have escaped from there. People have, left. They've told their story. There's amazing documentaries and videos out there where you can listen to people. One of the documentaries I actually loved was a camera crew went with a doctor, an ophthalmologist who went over to North Korea to do free cataract surgeries. And when people would recover from their cataract surgery, they would immediately go over to their portraits that are required for them to hang in their homes of the great leader. They would go over to that and basically pray to this portrait and speak their devotion to this portrait, that they will, now that they have their sight back, kill as many Americans as they can, and that they're because they've been brainwashed to think that they're still in a war. That's what not having freedom looks like. If you don't live in a situation like that, you've got freedom, you've got means, you've got resources, you have zero excuses for not moving forward in your life in the way that you desire. The only thing that may be holding you back is the brainwashing of, life is this, and you're only successful if you do this, and this is what it means to be an upstanding citizen in our country. This is what it means to be successful. And don't you want to be successful because you want to get a mate and you want to be looked at with a certain admiration? We're told these things, and they do brainwash us, not as deeply as those living in North Korea, but certainly we've been brainwashed and programmed as much here in the United States, but with just different information, different kinds of different types of propaganda. So if you want to live a life different from what you're living, then we have to first realize that we've been programmed and break free from that propaganda. Stop listening to and taking in that propaganda, and then believing that you have choice, believing that you have resources and means, and tap into that higher consciousness that will show you exactly what you need to do, that will tap you into exactly who you are and what you have and what you're here to do and what you're here to give and where to go to do all of that. Now, to get to that place of where those channels are very clear can take some work. That's what all these practices that get shared on this podcast are all about. Those practices are the work to essentially prepare our body, mind, and spirit into a place of where we can be fully tapped into our higher self-consciousness, God consciousness, into source. Being connected into that then will allow us to live that ephemeral life of your dreams, this life that you wish and want and desire, this life that is really your birthright to have and to live. No excuses. It's just about taking action. It's about actually first awareness, right? That, there's more. Where can I find that more? It's not here. So where is it? It's got to be somewhere. Let's go look for it. So travel to me is not just a thing to go and experience other cultures. It is an inner travel that is happening to be inspired in new ways, to discover new aspects of life itself, to discover gifts and elements of myself that maybe I haven't yet discovered, to just be in this expanded sense of what is, and to break free from those very well-worn ruts, break free from the program. So whether you go on a week-long trip or a year-long sojourn, or you decide to become fully nomadic, whatever it is, I highly urge people to travel out here in the real world, the physical world, right? In the external world, because it changes and makes this, gives us this opportunity to transform and shift in our inner world. as well. Now you can travel and not have any of that happen if you go to a place where you just like go to maybe a all-inclusive resort and just sit in a lounge chair and drink all day and maybe broken up with a meal. I mean, maybe things aren't going to shift as much in that kind of travel. But when you travel in a way where you are experiencing newness, you are challenging yourself in new ways. That might just be the challenge of figuring out this train system, figuring out this, city's subway system. I remember being in Tokyo and looking at the map for the subway system there and just feeling completely overwhelmed. It's like it reminds me of like a computer, computer, what do you call that? The computer wires of our hardwire. Sorry, I'm losing my words here, but you know what I'm saying. It's like this very complicated. They try to make it easy with the different colors. It's like, okay, this color is this line, but when you have so many lines within a subway system and all the colors are kind of similar, wait, what? Where am I going? Where are all these lines going? It all just starts to jumble. It's and can take a lot to then center yourself, calm down, go, okay, I'm just going to take this bit by bit. You've probably heard that saying before of like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. So this is true of all things, whether it's figuring out a subway system, figuring out a business problem, figuring out how you're going to make your next whatever decision it is in life. The bigger it seems, the more important it is to slow down and take it bit by bit. And then it all starts to make sense. You look at that map of all these convoluted lines that go, and you just look at this one section and you look at the one line with the one color and go, okay, that's going from there to there, these names. All right, I can figure this out. And you just take it bit by bit. So that's a real life challenge, like a rite of passage almost, right? We're in the real world, we're in the physical world, figuring out some map like this, but it's also helping us figure out life, figure out, oh, I don't need to be overwhelmed by life. I can just take it bit by bit and figure it out. And when you do figure it out, like when you do figure out the subway system, you end up in the place you meant to be and meant to go, or you figure out something else on your travels, like just a language barrier, and you finally are able to communicate to somebody, you figure it out with that person. There's the sense of, yes, right? A sense of success, a sense of relief, a sense of, we did it. And that sense of success and that relief helps to build up our courage to try more, to do other things, to experience elsewhere. So if fear is what's holding you back from living that life that is the life you desire, that is the life you dream about, that is the life you absolutely know is what you're here for and meant for. If fear is the thing holding you back, then it's all about taking these small steps and challenges. Because when you overcome that challenge, we gain some courage. And then you overcome another challenge and we gain a little more courage. And then we overcome a bigger challenge and we gain more courage from that. And our courage builds up to where the world and life, it's not so scary. It's actually incredible. It's actually exciting and joyful and amazing. And there's no reason to not be living that exact way you wish, to feel the way you want, to have what you want, to be who you want, to experience what you want. All of that just falls into place, becomes. And that is that great mystery unfolding, that you end up becoming what you're meant to be without necessarily even knowing exactly what that's going to look like. Remember, we're not focusing on anything specific, that we are focusing on these beautiful generalities that we want to have and live and be in our highest and best. What does that look like? What does that look like, God? What does that look like, universe? What is that going to be today, tomorrow, our whole life? If we enter with that curiosity and we open the door, we are giving ourselves permission to walk into what may feel scary, but like I said, just take small steps, little doors. Don't go, across the world, but, maybe go to the next town over, for example. There's so much here, so much life, so much incredible, incredible things to witness and be part of. We are bigger than what we think we are, as far as the experiences that we are told we should have. And that's my message today, to go out and travel, because travel is such a beautiful way to open you up to new experiences that allow that mystery to unfold some more, that give you challenges that then allow you to, awaken that courage within, because you feel this sense of accomplishment from figuring out the menu in Indonesian, whatever it is. Travel is just one of many ways, of course, that we can tap into greater mystery, can live more into bigger life than maybe what exists currently, from just operating from this lower self. If you're interested in learning more about the kinds of trips we do at Take a Trip, Change a Life, go visit our Instagram, go visit our website. It's all Take a Trip, Change a Life. Tap into what I've done in the way that I've traveled in the world. And I'd love to share my stories and inspiration and even knowledge of, like, how did you do it? Because all of it's available to all of you. And if you want some guidance in that way, I would love to share it. And I want to hear from you, because all of you tuning into this podcast, I know, are fellow travelers, and that might be travelers in the physical world. It's traveling in our inner world. It's traveling in the multidimensional. So how else have you traveled? What have those travels taught you, shown you? Travels do you have in your future sites? Share those with me, with the community, with people who are around you. Not to change them, but to inspire them. Not to, say that what they're doing is wrong, but to be open with what you're doing. Because that's another thing about this realm and about the propaganda, is that when we start to talk about all of these, what might be considered woo-woo or fanciful ideas, or just outside of that structured norm, people can be shamed into being weird or being, children. Oh, you're just, you have all these dreams. You're just a child. You haven't settled down like us adults. Don't let shame stop you from sharing what you learn on your travels, inner and outer, with others. Again, not to change them or to shame them or to say that anything they're doing is wrong, but to share with and be bold in that sharing. Be courageous enough to say, oh yeah, this is how we're doing things. This is how we're living. This is it. You want to hear about it? I mean, most people who are still asleep and in this construct, and they won't want to hear about it. Like, no, sounds strange and it's making me uncomfortable. And that's okay. But you are sharing it out for those few listening that might go, ooh, yeah, that sounds really intriguing. That sounds exciting. Ooh, I want to learn more. So I hope for those of you tuning in today, or those who want to learn more, who are feeling moved and intrigued and inspired and ready to do some new things in life, because our life is here in this moment. This one life is very precious. This experience that we're having is and can be so beautiful. Wherever you are today, whatever you're doing, however you're feeling, I hope it's in and can be in a state of beauty, a state of joy and wonder and awe. Look around you right now and notice something that fits into that beautiful, awe-inspiring, just something that could wow some sense of you, and know that that's all around us, everywhere, all the time. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the other side. Bye for now.